Hi teacher, I'm here to record the work about David Crystal's book, and the part that my teammates were about to do is to talk about the future of English as a world language. Firstly, Crystal says that language is a democratic institution. When you learn a language, you have rights in it. You can modify it, create it, or add to a language. Crystal says that is a tendency that happens with English. English is influenced the same way both by natives in English and by ones who speak it as a second language. The author also says that fashions exist in the English language as exists anywhere else. Crystal said that a linguistic fashion may also be created by groups that speak English as a second language, as a foreign language, or by groups that speak varieties such as Creole or Pidgin. David Crystal says that Pidgin is any contact, any language created spontaneously by contact of humans, as a mixture of other language being used as a way to communicate with speakers of different language. And more, the variation created by these groups can now be accepted by the international community and not even more criticized as foreign. It can be used in standard education and may appear in writing. Then the author questioned what power and prestige associated with these new varieties of English. David answers saying this phenomenon is happening so fast that it's difficult to be sure. However, we can notice the increase in the appeal of these features in society. For example, press uses these words more frequently, and they are not being put in inverted commas anymore. Now they are common words. They are words that everybody accepts. These fashionisms are adopted with some effort and then become natural to people. Actually, there are people that can even promote the language fashion to a local usage, giving more prestige than it could ever dreamed. An example of the usage of the word is the word Maori by the New Zealanders as a word recognized by the prestigious levels of society, politicians, socialites, religious leaders. Using local words is not ignorance anymore. It is respectable and even cool. The next steps move from national to international levels. David detaches the advance of global fashionisms in English through important people of a community. They take the local vocabulary with them and use it during their travels, business meetings, international forums, etc. We must accept the fashionisms instead of condemn them. Many times we encounter a situation that we have to accustom with dialects. For example, in a visit of an important and influent person, if this person has in his vocabulary some fashionisms, we have to work to understand what the other person wants to say. We have to bear in mind that we cannot escape from the increase of the regional varieties of English in international scenario. David also says that the local variety is inserted so deeply in society that establishing attitudes against it has a negative effect. People well educated in regions that dialects constantly used can be separated from the others just because they try to talk in standard way. The rule is simple, it's adaptability. As an example, we have the case of Singapore, where the Prime Minister, in one of his national speeches, asked for the inhabitants to diminish the usage of local language, the Singlish, an hybrid of English, Chinese, and Malay, aiming economical and political benefits to Singapore. To sustain his affirmation, he used examples. He mentioned the media and even the most popular show in Singapore. He also appealed to the owners of this show to increase the usage of standard English, and the businessmen agreed to it and reduced the content in Singlish. Obviously, the Prime Minister was highly criticized in Singapore and all around the world. Prejudice against local varieties of English shows a problem that is happening constantly with New English. People who speak standard English believe that there must be exist just one kind of English, the standardized form. Other forms must be eliminated. Then, Crystal shows a new contemporary view presented by United Kingdom. He highlighted the importance of standard English and, at the same time, the maintenance of the local accent and dialects. To prove it, Crystal says that language has many functions and there is a reason for the existence of standard English and for the local varieties. While standard English promotes natural intelligibility, dialect promotes identity of a nation and a community. For the fact that language has many functions, they believe that standard English and Singlish can clearly coexist in Singapore. After that, Crystal shows that, ironically, the Prime Minister of Singapore recognizes and emphasizes the importance of both forms of communication as precious for their way of living, helping the conclusion of their aims. However, instead of fostering the standard English, the minister condemned the Singlish. This was a huge mistake of the minister. David emphasizes that the conflict of languages happens all over the globe, principally during classes in which students arrive speaking different from standard mode, and most of them are reprimanded by the teachers to speak always in the correct and standard way. There is a clear increasing of expressions before penalized and now elevating their status as acceptable and disseminated around the community. The influent people use dialect from English. The variety becomes more and more acceptable, and during the time, spread and borrow expressions from other places. As a consequence, to communicate, people who speak the standardized mode will have to use the local vocabulary to chat. Crystal finishes saying that changes in vocabulary basically happens with alternative words, while essential words usually keep up their original spelling, speaking, and meaning. Well, teacher, this was my presentation. I hope you enjoy. I hope you can hear it well and see me well. See you on Thursday, and I hope to see you next period, next week too. Bye bye, teacher.